Guten Erev Shabbos. A man once bought a mule from a farmer who told him that this mule is extremely obedient and you just need to whisper into his ear and it listens. So the guy brings the mule home. The next morning, he whispers things into the ear of the mule and the mule refuses to budge. So he goes running back to the farm and he says, "You told me that this mule listens, is obedient, compliant. What's going on?" So the farmer takes a 2x4, jumps into a pickup truck, drives over, hits the mule over the head with a 2x4, and then he whispers into the mule's ear. And he turns to the fellow, he says, first you have to get his attention, and then he listens. Which brings me to the words of the rabbis, that dai lechakima beremiza, with a wise person, you just need to hint, or you need to allude to them, and they understand on their own. While l'shatya, to someone who's not wise, you need b'churmiza, takes a blow to wake him up. Which brings me to this week's parsha, where the beginning of the parsha, where Moshe Rabbeinu was rebuking the Jewish people, Moshe Rabbeinu mentions a bunch of locations, Barava, Molsuf, Ben Paran, Ben Teufel, V'Lavan, V'Chatzeres, V'Dizav, and Rashi explains that actually, not all these are actually places, but Moshe Rabbeinu is rebuking the Jews for various sins that they performed through their journey through the Midbar, through the desert. And he alludes to it, and he does it beremiza, by hinting without being explicit, because that's a better way to get through to the Jewish people. The commentaries, however, ask, later on in the rebuke, Moshe Rabbeinu does rebuke the Jewish people specifically for sins that they performed. Why here does he do it beremiza, only by alluding to it? One of the Talmidim of the Arizal, his name was Rav Moshe Zakos, and actually this past Wednesday, Hey Av, was the yard site of the Arizal. He explains as follows. He says there's different types of issues that have to be dealt with in a different way. There's sometimes a person does something that's obvious that it's bad. It's clear. And with such a person, when he does something wrong, you just spell it out for them. Tell them this is wrong and stop doing it. Of course, in an appropriate way, but you can be explicit. But there's sometimes that a person has something which is deep-rooted. He has a bad character trait, or he has a bad attitude, or something else. This is not transactional. We're asking him to do something to change himself. It's like transformational. You can't mandate transformation. You have to help the person come to the realization on their own. And how do you do that? By speaking to them subtly, by alluding to the issue. And they need to process it themselves in order to ultimately change their behavior. So this is the two types of ways which Moshe Rabbeinu interacts with the Jewish people. Later on in the rebuke, he's talking about very specific sins, that it was obvious that it was a sin, and he points it out to them. At the beginning of the parsha, Moshe is alluding to things that they did that were maybe more deeply embedded within the Jewish people, and there he used a different method, the method of the rabbis, dai l'chakima beremiza, hinting, alluding to it, hoping that they would understand on their own, and ultimately change that behavior as well, or that attitude. Have a wonderful and blessed Shabbos.